I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I'm Tony Russo from OceanCity.com. And all sorts of fun stuff for you this week. We're going to jump right into it because we've been talking, and at some point we were like, you know what? Why don't we just finish this on camera? Because one of the things that we do this a lot, and sometimes we'll be like, oh, what was it I said? Or sometimes we'll assume. I'm like, oh, you remember what I told you that? And I'm like, yeah, but not. Right. They don't remember. So, Hi, welcome to our conversation.
Hello.
So we're going to start with content, writing content.
Yes, the written word.
The written word. Do you want me to tell you my story first? Or
yeah, you had brought up an incident. And what did you call it?
Don't write for free, but if you must write for free, write for me.
Right.
And I wish free and me didn't rhyme, but not so much that I want to change the language. So here's the thing. I'm the editor of OceanCity.com, along with a couple other websites, and we need content that we can't afford. It's simply put, that we can't afford. And so I've been soliciting bloggers, and now I was on the other side of this for years. Mm-hmm. And it was always like, well, why don't you value me enough to pay me? And I was always very suspicious. I always felt like I was being taken advantage of, but I'm a member of a bunch of writers groups now. And so that was the pitch that I made. I'm like, you should never, ever write for free. But if you decide you want to write for free, you should write for me.
So you're joining these writers groups to try to recruit free writing?
No. I'm a professional writer. My book, I didn't bring it. My book's out May 9th, but I got
Delaware book?
Delaware Beer is I got the first copies.
Awesome.
I actually gave a copy to my mother-in-law for her birthday, and I'll give a copy to my mother next weekend. Shh, she's not watching.
Okay.
But anyway, and so as a member of these writers groups, I'm like, you know what? This is the kind of thing that I can help out with, because you sit around and a lot of the writers are like, you know what? I can't get any traction. Nobody's looking at my blog. I can't get any traction. Nobody's looking at my blog. And that's when I'm like, listen, I can get people to look at your blog. We have hundreds, nearly, of thousands of people who look at our sites. Yes. I mean, that's a for real thing. It's not a made up number.
OceanCity.com,
Annapolis.com, Maryland.com. We've got all of these sites, and I'm writing for all of them, and I'm doing very well. And my personal social media stuff is doing very well, and my book and stuff is helping. Also, I'm on salary though, right? It's not, I don't have to go looking for more jobs.
Right.
But I only want people to do things that make them happy and that will help them. Mm-hmm. Whereas I always felt like those websites were like, oh, we just want your blood for free.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I really have the kind of reach.
Yeah.
That and the couple people who have, they're like, hey, you really do have the kind of reach. That's awesome. And they contribute when they feel like it. And, some of these aren't professional writers. None of these are one is a professional writer. I don't know if you saw it. He wrote a story about being a merman.
Oh, yes. I did see that.
Yeah, he's here in Berlin, and he's a talented author.
I think that's great, too.
Jeff Smith is his name. Jeff, I think it's Jeff Smith's his real name, and I think his stage name is Jeffrey Smith. Like we're like strippers. Like my stage name is Tony Russo, but my proper name is Anthony Russo.
Russo.
Right.
Anyway, high class strippers.
Yes, high class strippers. So, but there's also the flip side of it, which is kind of what we were just talking about before we went on air, which is like, I wouldn't come to your business and say, I love what you do, but not enough to pay for it.
Right.
Right. And that's what always offended me as a blogger. And that's why I try to be very gentle. And the one thing though that I like to point out to the contributors mm-hmm. is that the difference between their blog and OceanCity.com, besides the volume, mm-hmm. is me.
Like, because you're an advocate for them.
No, I'm an advocate for them, and also I'm an editor. Like,
oh right,
right. And I'm not just saying that typos don't get through or anything like that, because they do.
Right.
But
because you're not that good of an editor.
Right, no. But what it is I can say, hey, this needs help. This needs time. Uh-huh. This needs shaping. Let's hash this out. And so they can get their work workshopped with an actual professional editor. As I said, I'm on salary. That's what mm-hmm. it says on. I have business cards and everything. Yeah. And so that I think is a main difference. And a lot of the other sites, a lot of the sites that would want me to write for them were like, yeah, just put up whatever you want, whenever you want it. And so I didn't get anything out of it. And also, like, if they didn't do the right kind of promotion, nobody saw my stuff. And oftentimes it's like, well, nobody can see my stuff on my site. I may as well leave it there. And
right.
on the outside chance someone does,
it's associated with you directly.
It's associated with me directly.
Yeah. And that's really the thing that I'm facing right now is, in the marketing and the digital world, Facebook is free, Instagram is free, but creating content is so important, so you have pictures and you're like, how about if you shoot some pictures for my restaurant and I'll buy you dinner? I'm like, that's great, but it doesn't pay my mortgage.
Right. Exactly. Like, I'm not going to go to the bank and take pictures of that. And they'll say, okay, no mortgage this month.
Right. But, and there's a balance, and we definitely do some things in trade because of what we do. We're looking to create content, and part of the content that we're creating is our own experience. So if we can help facilitate that,
absolutely,
you get
to double dip if they're gonna pick up your tab. If the deal is, I'll pick up your tab, shoot yourself at my bar, that's fine. But if the difference is, hey, come and shoot a commercial that I'm gonna send to WBOC,
right,
and here's a hamburger, that's different.
That's much different. And what it's funny because I had this discussion, and I might have even brought it up last week, but it's kind of the realization. I want to get your input on this, and what I've started telling clients is you have to figure that content that you're creating is unlike a lot of other things that you're doing in your business and even regular marketing. It's an appreciating asset, so it is something that you can use today. Varmint Fest.
It's a forever thing. Yeah.
Is, that can be a promotion for next week or next year for around the same time. And then also we've been doing this long enough that we are starting to get people, 7 years ago coming back and asking us for either pictures or blog posts or whatever. And it's like this archival thing.
Right.
And, some of it is driven by the Facebook memories and that sort of thing, but it is, so there's value in it that appreciates over time. It doesn't depreciate, and you have to understand that.
That's one of the things that, let me undermine that by accident because I was just about to make fun of the newspapers because I love making fun of the newspapers. I was in the newspaper business for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying, I was doing a story on this guy, and I'm like, and the cool thing about this story is it'll be on the internet forever, and people will see it and people will share it, and they always do, and they always really like my stuff. And he's like, I know where I know you. I had written a story about his uncle's business. This dude, he owns the shrimp boat now, I guess, on 611, right? I wrote about it when his uncle was, and so I wrote the story up, and they put it in the bathroom. Like, he's like, it was really the only place we had a wall. And to this day, it's hanging in the bathroom. So yeah, that's a rare exception to the rule. But it's still content as opposed to an advertisement.
And it's still a memory point. And and even if it's when somebody's doing their business, it's
also what was valuable to him is that he remembered that people liked it. He remembered that people liked my writing,
right?
Which is when earlier I was saying, people are like, nobody knows me, and it takes forever, but eventually people are like, oh yeah, I like what you do,
right,
when you write about this.
Yeah.
I wrote this
people recognize your voice even when you're not speaking.
Absolutely. I wrote this fun story about Figures Island. It's live on the site now, but it'll be up at like 4:00. And when I put it on my personal page, I said something like, I've written about Figures Island. I guess that was bound to happen, or something like that. And one of the quotes for the story, which I really liked, and it was a heartfelt story. It was sitting in Figures Island, drinking an orange crust and listening to Tchaikovsky is pretty much the most. If there's anything more Ocean City than sitting in Figures, drinking an orange crust and listening to Tchaikovsky, I don't think I can stand to know what it is.
while the sun sets over
right. Yeah. So
yeah.
But the point is, I think I think sometimes I can tell if a story is pretty good, and I think this is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna like it, and I think, and so it has staying power. Like, I wrote a good story about this business,
right?
Because I was there having this experience, and it's going to stay. It's something that they're gonna they're going to like because other people are going to like.
Right. And it's the year of their 40th anniversary. And, and so when they have a 50th anniversary, they can go back.
This is part of it.
Yeah. And I do think that's a real thing. I actually saw there's a great guy a photographer, a nightlife photographer that I follow. And he had an interesting take on it because, a lot of people will, like I said, for us, pictures is kind of, everybody has a nice camera or a decent phone that you can shoot pictures with, but still you get, these people who are sort of like, well, why don't you come take pictures and we can help. But it is interesting, a couple people who are out there and sometimes you get to the point where you're doing enough work that you can do stuff for free, and that's a great position to be in. You love writing, you talked about,
I'm going to do it anyway.
You're going to do it anyway. Same with me with video. I'm going to do it anyway. In fact, some of my favorite videos are the ones that I just, I do for no reason whatsoever. And it's great to be able to be in a position where you're doing it, and getting paid enough and enjoying it enough to have that as an option. So it's, it always is an option. Right. I don't know about for you, but, on our kind of production board, there's always, a special project that or 6 right now, that are kicking around that you'd like to get to. I mean, this is one of those things,
right? Yeah. This is one of the 4 I do, and they are all one of those things. Yeah. But like books, like I have a book that I'm starting to work on a little bit now, and that's always going to take a back seat because I'm writing, pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like one of the things that if I can build a blogger community, that is something that's kind of been missing. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I think we could use in Annapolis mostly. Here we're in good shape, but in Annapolis I've been talking, and I'm like, one of the things that Annapolis doesn't have is like a blogger community. Like there's not a lot of people like you and I who are like, hey, this is what I do and this is what I do, and every now and again we kind of touch off one another, and so I'm hoping to develop that there so that they can start sharing their own stuff, and that rises all ships, blah blah blah.
Right. Interestingly, just last week, I had, one of the first experiences of somebody who I know, I say fan, but, they're people that I know, either worked with, who actually made a comment about, I follow your stuff. I see that you're doing this, the Hangout and the video podcast and, and I sat and I started watching a couple of them,
Yeah.
And it's just great to run into a guy at the bar, and and to mention that and get that ackillagement. I'm like, so now after 216 episodes,
we have a fan. Yeah,
we have a fan.
But my brother, just to interrupt and not to interrupt, my brother actually sent me a text on the beer one. And he's like, the audio on this is horrible.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, then you have you open yourself.
There are 2 sides to that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and so I don't know if you saw this, but it's been an idea that we've been kicking around, and actually it's going to go to how we're doing things today and how hopefully you and I are going to be doing things in the future and how a lot of people will see stuff. We're testing out the Dewey Raw. So we're doing a live half-hour show, me and the general manager
from the Starboard.
It's going to be a more general show about all of Dewey.
Right.
I'm calling it America's coolest small party town,
right?
Or, something like that. But it's meant to be something similar. And what we got, what we ordered today, which I'm excited about, is something that Facebook is going to be adopting with the new Facebook Live. So it's a single entity camera that can stream direct to Facebook, which, we were talking about, like we experimented with it last week to see if, just get a little thing out there. I think we'll maybe play with that some more. But at any rate, it's the ability. I like it because the technology is now catching up where you can take care of all of the post-production during the actual creation of it. And
that is so important. One of the things, I laugh about doing so many podcasts, but one of the best things about, especially I do 2 beer podcasts, mm-hmm. and both of those are for surecraftbeer.com. They're technically part of my job.
Right.
I was doing them before I got this job, but still. But one of the like that, those are two pieces of work that are done while I'm creating them.
Yeah.
And it allows me to be more productive. I mean, the shows are good, there's no, production
Lights.
value as we used to like to say back in the day. There's not a lot of production value. But the content that and so what I do is I don't know if I told you this, for my new one with the Brewers, I borrowed from Mark Maron.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I do the interview on the phone, and then before I talk about it, like, hey, I talked to so-and-so, and then I play it. And then afterwards I'm like, hey, that was fun, wasn't it?
Yep.
Because that, I mean, I don't know if he invented that. I'm sure lots of people have done that, but he's the one. No, Jesse Thorne does it as well, but Jesse Thorne does it a little bit differently. I stole from him on the other podcast that I do. The idea, though, is that we're making these things and that they're coming out right away, which means that, as you were saying, like so there's a story, like the Fager story that came out today. I've been working on that for a while because I wanted to make it good. And sometimes I can knock these out in 20 minutes, and sometimes I have to let them cook. I don't have any control over that. I don't want to be too artsy about it, but it's just how it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, I know how this is going to go. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So that's I'm cultivating. And then, I'm posting on Facebook and all of the social media all the time, and like finding a safe 3 or 4 hours to turn that off where I can write is another aspect. So I have like layers of things that are going on.
Right.
And if I'm going to be productive every day, and I pretty much write something every day.
Yeah.
Which is a lot for one dude who's also doing the social media and stuff.
Sure.
But it helps that so much of it comes out immediately.
Yeah.
It helps that I can spend so I'll do the beer podcast this afternoon. I'll cut it together in an hour. And that's something that I'm going to be able to cut together every time. I don't have to be inspired to do that. Right. You just have to have the stuff. And with the photos and the video, again, if you can edit on the fly, same thing. A lot of your post-production is done before you even sit down.
Well, and the other part about it too is doing it, so the whole live versus recorded live versus produced, even if it's recorded live, there's still some forgiveness in what people are expecting to see. So you put together a half-hour show, and even though it's, 2 camera angles and there's a produced piece in the middle, which is what I want to kind of do with the, to steal that idea. Because I'm making produced videos already. It's kind of like, hey, let's take a look at, this one we did. But that as a viewer, you're sitting down, you're watching a half-hour show on YouTube. There's going to be some pauses, some uhs, some ahs, and all of that. And I think it makes it, like I said, it's easier for me to get stuff out, turned around in a quick time frame, and people get used to having it on a regular basis.
Right. And it's also the quality gets better as you do it.
Right. So I don't know if we talked about this last week, or if you remember, but I made some comment. No, I was talking about it on the radio, and I said that Facebook Live is their attempt to kind of get back at Snapchat. They wanted to buy Snapchat. Snapchat said, nah, keep your $3 billion.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people question that decision on Snapchat's. They're still going. As a marketer, I don't know how they use it as a brand other than, having the people who are associated with the brand, just be themselves.
Right.
But one of the things that, the basic, idea of it is it's not filtered. It's not produced.
Right.
It is raw. This is me. You can't upload a video that you've doctored with or put, you have your choice of 2, little, filters or whatever to put on it. But it's raw and it's out there. So Facebook Live is kind of that same mentality. I have a hard time with it because I want to produce stuff. I want to have 2 angles. I want to clip back and forth, so that it keeps people's interest. So I think that's even more evident because they had the F8 conference, and I don't know if you saw this, but one of the things that Facebook is now freaking out about is people are not sharing personal stuff anymore. There's been a big drop in what people are putting out there. And a lot of it has to do with the outrage. A lot of it has to do with,
Well, one of the things I did see this, and one of the things that was really missing from this conversation is you can't. You're now. There are two things. One thing, two ways. First of all, we have a generation coming of age to whom we've been saying don't ever put anything personal on the internet ever under any circumstances.
Right.
That's number one. And number two, everybody's been a little sloppy with, we're going to, you can use Facebook for free, but anything you tell us about yourselves, we're going to use that to sell you shit.
Right.
And then everybody's like, well, why don't people share personal things?
Yes.
I got an idea. It's not just because there are more colorful things. And that's the other thing. That's why memes, I love your memes, by the way. Todd does awesome memes. But that's why memes are so popular. Like, I think that. And now everybody knows I think that without me having to say that I think that.
Right. And it's a little bit more creative. It's a little bit, more eye-catching, I guess.
But so, I mean, I get to be everybody's spokesperson, which I have no trouble with at all.
Right.
So.
Well, but what's interesting too about it is, everything, the news feed and all of that, they're saying that there's been this precipitous drop in personal sharing, but the attention and the time that people are spending on it hasn't gone down. So they're at some point they're probably like, well, fuck it, we're still making money,
right? Yeah.
And I think live is a good way to get them more back to the raw. And hey, this is what I'm thinking right now. This is me, planting tulips in my front yard.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to take shots at this at people for this because I guess it's graduation season and now there are made up memes. Okay.
Deep breaths.
There's been this made up meme, and we talked. I got even madder because you and I had talked about it. But there's this made up meme.
They should have known.
It's a list of colleges. It's a list of athletic directors who are like, oh, he was a great athlete, but we're not going to take him because he said something on Facebook, and that is a lie. That is a lie. Okay, we had this conversation.
Right.
No one believes it. But the other aspect of that is, when you're so afraid to share something, then you're just a consumer, and I don't think anybody cares if we're just consumers.
Right.
I certainly don't. As a producer, it's fine. It's fine with me. And if you don't mind, I'll share with you my story of. So please I had planned to do. I have been planning since I got here to do this Ocean City in 60 seconds, which was this quick, hey, what's up? Blah, 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 blah. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it as a podcast at first. I want to do it like on the tail end of an Ocean City podcast that I just was having trouble getting together. And then I thought we could do it like this. But no one would play with me. Yeah. Right. And so I was all by myself on it. And I'm like, well, I can't. I mean, look at this. Like, there's no amount of time you could watch this. 60 seconds is way too long to me in my orange shirt and my gray background. Yeah. Right. And so my hope was that to do the Facebook Live and to set up a camera and to make a produced Facebook Live thing, you can't do that. You need your phone. Yeah. I didn't know that until I was getting ready to do it. And I'm like, where's the button on my computer that says Facebook Live? Right. So I did it. I shot my first one. They'll be out every Monday. This one I shot not in secret. I mean, you can't really do anything live on Facebook in secret. No. But I did it at a quiet time, generally like 3 o'clock. Yeah. 3-ish o'clock, I went out on Monday. Just that way, if it was an utter disaster. Yeah. And one of the things that I don't think people realize about Facebook Live, if you're doing, so I'm doing a rundown of the week. These are the things that are going down. I think it's important to keep it short. Mm-hmm. I think it's critical to keep it short. So mine's a minute. Well, this one was a minute and 20 seconds. And I actually made a little joke about. Yeah. I can't shut up. Yeah. But one of the things that isn't well publicized, especially if you're doing it for a large-ish audience, is that there's a counter. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like 60 people are watching, 80 people are watching, 100 people are watching. I'm like, okay, well, that's not a problem. Like 1 billion people could be watching now, but we don't know because that viewer thing doesn't work. I don't think it does. I mean, because I know that sometimes I know people are watching for a fact. Like they'll tweet me and they'll say, hey, you got something on your face. and it says 0 viewers. So I'm not certain that works, but I'm certain that the Facebook one works. Yeah. But it was fun, and it got a lot of it got.
So
a lot
are
of
you saying
traction.
that, did you get a little unnerved by the increasing number?
It was a distraction that I didn't need.
Right.
Because
you have a beginning, middle, end in your mind, and,
right.
and if things keep ticking up, you feel this obligation to continue.
As I said before, and so I used a sticky note, and I put the sticky note on the side of my camera with my notes, just like talk about this, talk about that, talk about the other thing. I forgot where I got Furnace Town confused with Frontier Town.
Oh.
Because the dock dogs are in Frontier Town this weekend.
Really? I love the dock dogs.
Yeah, I might go shoot. There's so much going on this weekend.
Yeah.
So I thought that I would do that, and I wrote talk about dock dogs, but I didn't say where it was.
Yeah.
So so you see me go look to my notes, see that my notes are wrong, go like this, think real hard, and come back. And it happened in a second.
Yeah.
But when it's me watching it, it happened over the course of 25 minutes.
And there's a
yeah,
a ting 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 ting, ting of people watching, tuning in.
This moron. And the other thing is, in case you're, and that's what's weird doing it live. That wasn't even the first time I did it live. It was the third one because I do them for Sure Craft Beer. So doing it live, I didn't realize that. I was more worried about oceancity.com because so many people watch it.
Right.
And so I set it up for a vertical shot, and I got in a vertical position, but it shoots in a square. And so then when I realized that, I just kind of leaned in. So, and like my head's like a little cut off, but it worked well. And I have, now that I've gotten one done, the rest will be easier.
Right.
I'll forget less things, like I wanted to say where I was. Right. Because I'm just in a t-shirt shop, and
yeah.
Oh, the t-shirt shop in Ocean City. I know where that is.
the one on Coastal Highway.
Yeah.
That one.
So I was just in a t-shirt shop. So I want to say where I am. I want to do these things. But other than that, it worked out. It worked out pretty well.
Well, I think we're going to be experimenting more with this. We definitely plan on leveraging the popularity of the Starboard for our little Dewey Beach show. And then when we get this technology that Facebook is actually now pushing, and even for our podcast and for other stuff, I think we'll be able to have fun with all of that. So and we'll see how it goes, because in another 6 months there'll be something different, right? And a new piece of technology.
And we've talked about this before. I just like you were speaking about Snapchat, and that's just I guess we'll call them the Holy Trinity or whatever. I understand and can use Facebook. I understand and can use Twitter. I understand and can use Instagram. It might be a rule of three. Like I might be able to add a fourth one, but only at the expense of one of the other ones. I don't dislike Snapchat. That's just a virtue. For one of my friends actually was saying this morning of an IRL friend who's never on Twitter, who tweeted something like, "How do people handle multiple social media accounts without constant existential crisis?" And I'm like, booze.
Booze. And
drink to quiet the demons.
And stick with professionals.
Right.
And that's, we always say to clients who are looking to have a presence online, to find the ones that work for you and your industry, work for your industry, but also work for you personally. Right. And just focus on a couple three or something like that.
Yeah, so screw you, Snapchat. We're both saying it. Actually, he's not.
No, I'm on Snapchat.
Very cool. And I think that's pretty much all I have. I mentioned the Fagers thing.
Yeah.
Which I think it's good. It's rare that.
So I might have. We'll talk about this off air, but I might have some free writing for you.
Oh. But yeah, the Figures thing, check that out on oceancity.com. I think it's good. If it's bad, please let me know. But if it's good, also please share it. Follow me on all the social media. We did that once and then we stopped.
We haven't been doing a good job of that.
Yeah. So I'm Tony Russo, backwards. My name backwards. That's OSSURYNOT. At OSSURYNOT on all the social media things.
Right.
I thought that was such a good idea. We did talk about that.
Yeah, we talked, and that it was your AOL account or something like that.
It's my AOL account, and I could have switched that any time because I was the first on Twitter. I was the first on Instagram. I'm not the first person, but the first Tony Russo. But I'm like, no, I'm sticking with this weird one that no one understands.
Right. But it makes perfect sense once it's explained 10 times.
And also, this is how I make myself feel better about it. I don't
Right.
know if this is true, but I feel like it's kind of like a business card. Like you can have one,
Right.
but they're gonna look you up on the internet anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and if you find me on the internet, if you put in Tony Russo Salisbury or Tony Russo Delmar, you're gonna find me. That'll be me. That'll
Right.
be the no relation one will be me. Oh, I posted that. You saw the no relation that Russo is the most popular Italian name in America. I thought that was wonderful. My sister-in-law sent that to me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Not a surprise at all.
Yep.
Not to Brian either.
Well, yeah, right. And I'm of course Todd DeHart on Facebook, Instagram, and on Snapchat. I am Good Clean Fun Life. And the username I think is Big T Little Odd.
Yeah.
So there you go. Look us up.
Very cool. And so what else you got?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, may Todd give you the sense to live in a small town.
We'll see you next week at happy hour.
Cheers.